As you know, I'm trying to source a Cybertruck cake
For your child.
for my child.
Not for you.
Imagine. Malware is a non-technical look at the tech news of the week.
This is a podcast where we learn together about everything from crypto to AI to whatever comes next in tech. I'm Natasha Hoskins.
I'm Dina Burke.
And this is Boys Club.
Wait, is it just Boys Club?
It's just Boys Club.
The Boys Club podcast?
No. Just Boys Club. Hi.
Hey, here we are. We have a lot to cover today. We're going to be talking about Telegram. We're going to be talking about the arrest of the founder and the ensuing discourse.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about the Nvidia earnings report and then a weird
AI use case.
Trend, I suppose. AI use case.
We'll leave it to the mystery of it. AI use case. Give it a listen. We talk about prediction markets. We talk about drift. And we talk about the Opensea Wells notice out of responsibility to this industry, just to make sure it's included here. That's that. And this is Malware, where Deana and I report on just talk shit about what's happening in the tech world, and I hope you enjoy it. I just have to say something. I was at the US Open with some friends last night, and they both are venture capitalists. And I was like, are you guys watching Industry? It's so good. And they're like, yeah, it's so good. We're loving it. But also like, and then they started to get realistic about it. Realistic about like the trades and the returns and talking about how stupid the trades are. I don't even have the language for it. and all of a sudden now I'm thinking about, wow, there's people with it's like a realization about how people have expertise and then and have a deep knowledge about things that I'm like, nobody knows what they're talking about. That's silly. I'm not even paying attention to the numbers of it. 4%. What tuning out. I'm on Twitter, and it has also just permeated into this podcast where I'm like, we're talking about things, and I'm just like, we're just talking. We're just catching up. And I'm like, no, there's people who like legitimately know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And the Telegram story is a beautiful example of that.
A crystal clear example of that.
Exactly.
Where we're just kind of splashing around in the kiddie pool. But there's people for which it's maybe their life's work.
Right. I mean, it is our life's work as well.
In a sense, I guess, but
in a lighthearted way.
Certainly thinking about issues of free speech.
Okay,
and
I see what you're
how
saying.
that impacts platform. Like,
okay, yeah.
That for some people, they get their PhD in that.
Totally.
You know,
they get off on that. That's not us.
No. We're in the shallow end.
What's going on in the most shallow way?
Okay, so from what I can understand. Well, first let's talk about what Telegram is, because I do think that before we get into the story, there are some people who are listening who might not be working in crypto and or live in a country with an authoritarian regime, which is the other very big use case of Telegram, as I understand it, who don't use Telegram. So for people who don't know, Telegram is a messaging app. Messaging meets social media. I don't really use the social media part of it, but I understand that many people do, and that's actually a big part of where there's some issues. 900 million users around the world. Huge. You can do like one-on-one messages, or like small groups, which is what I primarily use it for. Or you can create broadcast channels where you're creating a group and there's like 200,000 people who can follow you. And it's just like a sort of a one-way street, a one-way broadcast. Part of why the crypto industry loves it is because it's got no moderation, basically. It's Wild West. Anything goes. And that's the story today.
Yes, I would say the joke always is you get a notification when someone from your contacts joins Telegram. And the joke is always this person has either gotten into crypto or they're buying drugs. Those are the two reasons that you would join Telegram. And in our case, there's a third where there is a woman named Ava who works with us, who is amazing. And she helps with our events and she works for our production company that we love. And she travels around the world with us doing these events. She's very beautiful. And she sometimes works the door at some of the events, like checking people in. And at one of our events, I was like, man, the door is moving slow tonight. And I looked over and it was just, she was getting chatted up by all these chads, these crypto chads. Just every single one of them was using it as a moment to chat with Ava, which
An
you know
opportunity.
what?
Yeah.
An opportunity.
Yeah. Why not take it?
No shade. Must.
Mhm.
It's their duty. And then there was one moment where I'm walking around this event and I get a notification. It's like, Ava has joined Telegram. And I was like, okay. I see what's going on here. Anyway, all that to say, yes, that's the messaging app. But as I've learned, as I researched the story, if we're looking for encrypted messages, we should really just use WhatsApp or Signal, because they're actually,
or iMessage is
or
encrypted.
iMessage.
Yeah.
They're more encrypted than,
Yeah.
which we'll get to.
I don't think that we need the encryption, but I know
No.
that some people do and want.
I'm like, would you
that.
like to sponsor this podcast? That's legal.
Okay, so that's Telegram. The founder of Telegram was born in Russia in 1984. His name was Pavel Durov. He was arrested in France this past Saturday, pulled off his private jet and arrested. The preliminary charges are pretty damning. They include enabling money laundering, drug trafficking, and the distribution of child abuse, sexual content. And also, very importantly, refusal to cooperate with law enforcement. He refused a subpoena, maybe subpoenas. And yeah, that's where the charges have landed. It's kind of early days for how that's all going to shake out. But what has happened over the past week is that this case has become very much a proxy for the conversation about free speech and technology more generally. There are two very passionate sides that have emerged. The first is the free speech side, #FreePavel, trending on Twitter. These are the folks who think that this is an infringement on free speech. The sort of case on this side is that there's a lot of concerns about holding founders liable for what's happening on their platforms. There's this thing called Section 230, which folks are saying that this is like an erosion of Section 230. Section 230 states that platforms aren't liable for the things that people say or do on their platforms, and that this is like starting to eat away at Section 230. Also, on this side are folks that are saying, okay, well, if you start to moderate, if you start to sort of bring the walls in around what people can and cannot say, then that is a very slippery slope towards censorship, and you can end up in a situation where speaking out against your government could end up getting banned, and that's very scary, especially in authoritarian regimes. And also on this side are folks that are saying that this sets a precedent where if a country doesn't like what a founder or platform is doing when they're flying through, they can just stop them and arrest them. And that is scary as well, to sort of extrapolate out what that future means. And then there's the other side. But I'll pause there if there's anything you want to add to this side first.
Something about Pavel is that he's sort of become a figure in the U.S. right-wing communities. He was on Tucker Carlson. Elon Musk loves him. He's become more and more of a hero in that community around free speech, and Telegram being this place where it's actually a place for just free speech to be able to exist. That all these other places, there's a lot of censorship. The other thing that I'll say is that what I've heard is there is this distinction that's was helpful for me, where the charges that are being brought against him, and hopefully where it goes, is that not that he is being held responsible for actions that were being taken by users on the platform, which would set a really bad precedent in tech, but that the main issue is that they were unresponsive to inquiries from these various governments about illicit behavior that was happening, and were uncooperative, wholly uncooperative with these countries and organizations to help with really serious allegations and behavior that was happening on the platform.
Totally.
So that was a really helpful distinction for me of like, okay, what could come out of this that's actually positive, and what sort of like legislation or what sort of charges could come towards the founder that would be beneficial, as opposed to just like setting weird precedent in tech, or having a result like the Silk Road founder where he's sitting in prison for over 10 years for behavior that was happening on his platform that he didn't really participate in. So that was a helpful distinction, I think.
Yeah, totally. I think that the other side of the coin on the free speech piece is, like you're saying, if you're knowingly facilitating crimes, the most heinous of crimes, I don't know how to help you. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like I don't know.
No patience.
You're not my free speech martyr at that point. Like where it's like if you see it and you know it and the governments are like, hey, can you help us?
Right.
Like this is happening on your platform. We need your help to do this. And you're like, peace, I'm good. Like that's not it. That's not standing up against government censorship. That's something else entirely. And I think that that's the case that's being made by the other side, IMO, pretty convincingly. I think that the other thing is that Section 230 is not limitless. Like it does require providers to remove illegal material to have their hands in it. And I think that that's like kind of speaking to the same thing. If you see it and you know it and it's going to harm someone, you need to take an action. And that's kind of the other side of this. And we have this, my husband Dave's like really into self-help, and we have he at one point got into this book that has like these relationship mantras, and there's like 5 relationship mantras, and one of them is that you say occasionally to the other person and one of them is you are partly right. Like if you're fighting with someone and it's like you're partly right, like it's a helpful thing to say, and in a conflict with a partner where it's like whatever. And I think that's kind of what's happening. It's like both sides are partly right. You know?
Totally. So the other component to the story is the encryption of it all. So essentially how this connects to the charges against him are that end-to-end encryption is where from the
hit me.
Let me just pull up my notes here. Okay. So end-to-end encryption is when it only lives on the device itself. And like, I'm not an expert. I'm sure some of this is wrong, but like this is how I understand it. Is that you're sending a message, it's only living on the device that you have and the device that it's sent to.
Meaning then, not on the Telegram servers. It doesn't pass through Telegram servers. Yeah.
Exactly. So in Telegram's case, it's not exactly end-to-end encryption. It lives on a server when it's traveling, essentially, from one device to another. And there's end-to-end encryption is very expensive. It's a very technical process. And WhatsApp did it a few years ago. And there's all of this. I listened to the Hard Fork guys, and they talked about how it was a very expensive endeavor to do that. And that there's maybe several reasons that Telegram is not set up for end-to-end encryption.
My understanding is that there is a possibility to do end-to-end encryption on Telegram, but it's not by default. Like you have to set it as a option.
You have to do like a secret message or something, a secret group. And one reason they might not be doing it is because it's very expensive and very technical, and they're like famously a very lean team and very like efficient team, and very few people working there essentially. The other is that I had some speculation that they do work with some governments to provide intel. I have no idea about that. I don't even know if that's like deep conspiracy. I've just like seen that chatter on the internet. So in this case, the reason this is happening is because they actually do have this intel and they can provide it because it's living on their servers. And so when a government reaches out to them and says, we need this intel and we need this information or we need these conversations, they actually have it sitting on their servers as opposed to a Signal, or if you have your iMessage set up that way, or WhatsApp, that it's only living on the devices. It's not actually living in the server. So that's how this is like all connected and comes back to like the privacy of it all and how that plays into the story at large.
Yeah. Man, as I was researching end-to-end encryption, I ended up on this encryption forum or something. I don't know where it was, and it was some guy that was basically saying like, I don't trust end-to-end encryption. If you didn't write the code yourself, then you don't even know.
Oh my God.
You can't trust it.
Write the code yourself.
I was like, I gotta mosey on out of here. That's the Telegram story. I think.
Yeah, it's developing. It's very complicated. There's many layers to it. It's a very interesting story. He's a very interesting figure. And I'm sure we got some things wrong, but that's the kiddie pool version of what's happening with.
There it is. From Idris Elba to Stripe to the Central Bank of Brazil, the 6th annual Stellar Meridian Conference in London has the range. Join policymakers, investors, builders, and more on October 15th through 17th in London to talk about how crypto is transforming everyday financial services right now. Tickets are going fast, so get yours now at meridian.stellar.org.
Let's talk about Nvidia. Nvidia had its earnings report come out on Wednesday, August 28th, and they beat expectations for the fourth straight quarter of triple-digit revenue growth.
Mm-hmm.
So it reported revenue of $38.04 billion, with their expected being $28.7, so exceeded expectations. Their market cap eclipsed $3 trillion. So they're the second most valuable company in the world behind Apple, which always shocks me that Apple is the most valuable company in the world. I mean, I shouldn't be that shocked because I lost an AirPod and had to go buy another one. And I was like, $100? $100?
And did you pay it?
I did.
There it is.
I did pay it.
There it is right there.
And it was such a stupid, I can't even believe, you know when you do something so fucking dumb and you're just like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Riding a city bike. I was riding a city bike. I had both AirPods in. And I was
do
like,
not do that. Red flag. Red flag.
Major red flag. And I was like, this is stupid. I should take one of them out. So I took one of them out and I knew, put it in the case. You've heard this story, but I'm putting it on the podcast. And I didn't put it in the case because I was just like, whatever, I'll just throw it in my bag. It's gone. That little thing is gone.
They can't be loose.
They can't be loose.
They can't be loose.
What am I doing? And the next day spending $100 on just the right one. I'm just like, this is stupid. Anyway,
that's why it was a new one.
It wasn't new. It wasn't new. But
no. Was the one you bought new?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's fresh.
Yeah.
I also had to replace the case recently. So little by little, this whole thing is just the only thing that's left from the original is the left one. And I have washed the left one. So it makes a ringing noise. So I'm like, out of all of the ones, out of all of the things in here, that should have been.
You know, I would have pegged you to go back and do corded. I think that's going to be my next move when mine go kaput.
That's cool. Corded's cool. I run. Like, cord's kind of annoying when you run.
Okay.
So, anyway, back to Nvidia. So, beat earnings. They've been beating earnings left and right for every single quarter for quarters and quarters, and that just continues. Their share price did fall on Thursday after their earnings report, and the chatter is basically people are just like, this can't keep up. This is crazy. This is a crazy thing. Continues to be a crazy thing, and they're just not going to continue to have these crazy earnings reports every single quarter. So it did fall, but they're doing great.
They're doing great. I feel like that correlates to a broader story around like an AI slump, an AI bubble burst, people feeling like the euphoria from the past, 2 years or year and a half since we got ChatGPT. When was that? November 2022?
I think so, yeah.
There's been scant actual use cases besides kids plagiarizing their homework using ChatGPT. Obviously, that's a huge oversimplification, but I think that there's some general market sentiment around that.
One other part of the story, there is chatter that Apple and Nvidia are in talks with OpenAI to be part of their next fundraising round, which would value OpenAI at $100 billion. Thrive, who led their previous round in February, is looking to... It looks like they will invest another $1 billion into the company. Yeah.
Is Thrive Jared Kushner?
Thrive Capital, which, yes, is the
Kushners.
Cushy.
I saw an insane edit that was
I can't wait.
Chapel Roan, you know, the bridge where she's saying, when you think about him in the middle of the
night.
And it's basically like to a girl who's now gone to and married a guy. And the edit was, it was a Kushner and what's her name? Carly Kloss.
Carly Kloss, yeah.
It was basically singing it to Carly Kloss.
It was a Gaylord
edit. And it was so as though Taylor is saying,
oh my gosh,
whatever.
Gaylord is so powerful. They're so good.
It's so good. And then it cut in the Project Runway scene.
This is something you can wear to the Kushners?
So good. The internet sometimes, man, the creativity just astounds.
Also, how this was a segment on Nvidia earning report and we ended with Project Runway, you wear this to the Kushner's meme is really great.
Okay, one thing I do actually want to put into the story on February 27th. This is just such an own goal. Like, it's crazy. On February 27th, we sent an email, a Boys Club newsletter. The subject line of the Boys Club newsletter was, "Is it too late to buy Nvidia stock?" And then the little the preview line said yes. That was literally the thing that people saw first. The stock price that day was $79. The stock price today is $118. So literally do the opposite of whatever we say.
The opposite. Do not
the opposite.
Listen to us.
Do not listen to...
We couldn't say it more. Every podcast we say it. Do not take our advice. Do not do it. That is so funny.
Oh my gosh. I had a sense because I knew we had sent that email, and as the
I did. The numbers are damning. The numbers are damning.
Really, because I knew, I was like, okay, the price will have gone up a little bit, and I was like, that will be a funny joke.
It's almost so bad it's not even funny, honestly.
I know. I'm like, is that irresponsible? Like, is there some like disclosure that I need to send?
Some people are saying this is not trading advice because they feel like a legal responsibility. I feel a moral responsibility to tell people do not take our trading advice.
Next up is a really dumb quick story here. But speaking of use cases of AI,
great. Smooth transition. Smooth brain, smooth transition.
There is a TikTok trend that is an AI tool where you take two static photos.
Okay.
Two separate static photos of a person.
Tracking.
And you put them into this tool and it animates the two photos and makes it look like they're hugging. Like they like hug across the photo. Like you put the two photos next to each other and then it like hugs across the photo.
Does it look realistic?
It looks pretty real.
If you weren't like prepped with this as like an AI thing, you wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah. So people are using it primarily, from what I've seen, is taking a photo of a dead grandparent and giving their dead grandparent a hug. And honestly, that's so wholesome. And if that's cathartic for someone to do and for someone to see, then great.
Totally.
But it's not creepy.
My first thought when I saw it was just, people are very lonely. People are very lonely.
The loneliness epidemic, yeah.
The loneliness epidemic is alive.
I think also what it made me think of is you and I both had that same visceral reaction to it, which is like, well, this is kind of creepy and like weird and like would never do that, would never ever do it. But that if that won't come to signal some generational divide where a generation that is growing up AI native and like sees this stuff all the time and uses this stuff all the time and they're just like, yeah, whatever. Like, when there's that kind of like just you're totally used to it and it doesn't bother you in the same way. Yeah. But that there'll always be the like Gen Zs and millennials who are like, and older who are like, I can't handle it. I don't know.
Totally. Interesting. Okay, AI hugs on TikTok.
That's it. Opensea got their red carnation. Is that what you call it in Bachelor Nation?
No, it's a rose. They got their rose.
They got the rose. They were added to the list of crypto companies this week to receive a Wells notice from the SEC, which is basically saying, hey, we're going to sue you soon. And the letter said that NFTs are securities. And honestly, I think OpenSea was happy to get it.
They're like, oh my God, we're relevant again. PTL. People are talking about us.
Yeah, so that's I honestly have no juice on the story. I could not be more cynical, so I think I should, when you don't have something nice to say, just don't say anything at all.
Don't say it at all. It's just Gary Gensler's asking, will you accept this rose to OpenSea? That's what you're going for.
That's all we got. That's all she wrote.
That's all she wrote. Okay, you have something here, Polymarket. You have gone, I'm starting to feel concerned that you might have a gambling addiction.
It's not gambling, it's prediction markets.
It's prediction markets, okay? It's not an addiction, it's a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. I've gone full Polymarket, bro.
I love that. I love it for you. You've had a fever for 5-6 days straight, and you've just been in a Polymarket fever dream. Every time I see you, you show up to our stand-up, you look not your best. You're sweaty and tired looking, and you're like, gotta check out, my Polymarket. And I'm like, is this the time to be doing that?
I I feel really a lot of conviction that prediction markets and poly market are going to define this next cycle that we're hopefully going into. But that aside, there's a prediction market called Drift on Solana, and they booked $20 million in volume in a single day.
Wow. Their founder is a woman named Cindy.
Yes.
And she's supposed to be very cool. I'd love to have her on the pod.
Cindy, let's do this.
Cindy,
let's do this thing.
Give us a call anytime. We're here.
Day or night. Yeah, they did $20 million in 24-hour volume. That's a crazy amount of volume.
That's a lot of money.
And yeah, prediction markets just, I see that, I said this to you earlier this week, but I see them moving into adjacent non-crypto communities that I think is in a really interesting way. Mm-hmm. It is gambling. Let's just be clear about that. The fun one that I saw, will Lana Del Rey break up with her
ugly boyfriend?
You editorialized that before October.
I would definitely bet on that. I would definitely bet.
Well, the odds are in your favor because the market right now, the odds are that she won't.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So
interesting.
I think that's the bet for you to take.
I think that's going to be a short relationship if I had to guess. I almost wrote the newsletter today on the rise of ugly boyfriends, and then Miranda was like, I don't know that. I don't know that that's the thing to write about. And I was like, okay, fine. Then I'm going to write about the matrix of fucks but doesn't have sex. So I don't know what is better, honestly.
Wait, what was the reasoning about not wanting to write about it?
She was just like, I think it was like mean. Maybe mean. And also like not a lot there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're like, there's one person specifically that you're talking about. You're like, no, there's this one
people.
Couple.
No, the other one is Bella Hadid, but I actually think her boyfriend is quite handsome.
Oh, he seems like such a
lovely guy.
I wouldn't call him ugly.
No, I don't think he actually is. But like rat boyfriend, rat summer guy, there was something there, but it was very pop culture. It was less internet native reporting.
Mm-hmm. Cool. On that, should we wrap this up?
We should. I think we're good.
Okay. Thanks for listening.